think about what you're doing on TikTok. Here's some cute kittens. Here's a AI video of a baby. Here's some atrocity happening in some part of the world. Here's somebody dying of cancer. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Dopamine, 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 dopamine. Juicy episode today. We're going to talk about social media and electronic communications. So why am I talking about this? Well, here we are. We're connecting. Right now you're listening to my podcast, but it's possible you're reading my Substack. I don't know, or maybe you saw something I shared on social media. There's a lot of choices out there right now, and it really matters to me how I talk about what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about is very important. We're not talking in a vacuum. We're talking on platforms, communicating through servers, and we don't own them ourselves for the most part. And they're big and powerful, and they do all kinds of things. And none of them are perfect because they're all created by humans. And one of the great promises of our digital age is that we can communicate with anyone, and we should be able to come to reality very quickly. All the knowledge of the universe available to us, we should be able to agree and have consensus on so many things, and obviously that's not working at all. And part of what's happening is the incentives of the platforms on which we speak are not aligned with our incentives. And because that's true, if I'm going to speak about ways that we can connect and get along and make really important decisions and have really important conversations, it matters to me what the existentials, the incentives are on the platform on which we're having that conversation. And this is a slippery slope because there is something wrong with everything. Climate wrong, human rights wrong. We live in a globalized world. It's impossible for us to take all of the problems out of the things that we use every day. And to try to be perfect is impossible. To be perfect is not to communicate on these platforms. I mean, we all pretty much have smartphones, and every smartphone maker is engaged in things that are not good. This is not my job to talk about smartphones right now, but this is the complexity of our age. So, and we all get to make different decisions on these topics. And my decisions will be evolving over time. But part of my decision is to tell you what decisions I'm making and why as a way of supporting conversations. It is important that we understand technology. I happen to be very embedded for a long time. I earned a living based on sharing on social media and have been engaged in this for a long time, these inner conflicts. And also, now I'm bringing my voice to the world, and I want to do it in a way that's aligned with my values, which is impossible 100%. And I, as a human being, cannot live in line with my values 100% because I'm human. And that doesn't excuse all the things that I'm not looking at. I always have to, and this is the radical ethics perspective. I always am infinitely responsible. I'm always leaning into what more can I understand, respond to, and at the same time, I can't do everything. So we're always working out this thing, but it doesn't mean we can just turn our back and say we don't look at any of it. That also doesn't make sense. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of theory, and then I'm going to talk about basically all the different options I have for connecting with you and why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. So I want to talk about surveillance capitalism. This is a term coined by Shoshana Zuboff, who works at Harvard and has written a book called Surveillance Capitalism. Surveillance capitalism describes a new economic logic where private companies, especially tech platforms like Google, Meta, Amazon, extract, analyze, and sell human behavioral data as the core raw material of profit. So privacy becomes the business model. Human experience is data exhaust to be monetized, and it threatens democracy because behavioral prediction, and this can scale into politics just as easily as it can into shopping. So we know that the algorithms are good at showing us what we want, a little scary good, what we might want to buy. They can get us to buy. Oh, I think most of us have a story of buying something from our Instagram feed, like, oops. But we have to be aware that if they can get us to buy, they can get us to do things politically as well. And again, this is not a black and white argument. Not every use of behavioral data is surveillance capitalism. We're used to merchandising, the placing of physical items in stores so that we want to buy. And I can only imagine that from the very beginning of markets, even bartering markets, sellers knew how to place items to appeal to the human eye, to show the use of it. Then we have advertising, which we well understand works on the human unconscious. So we've been doing this for a long time, but surveillance capitalism is another layer. It is a layer without consent. And even if it's checkbox consent, do we really understand what they're taking from us? Because if I, as a stranger, walk into a retail store, I know that they can observe me and they can make whatever assumptions they want about my demographics. They can watch what I do there, and they can put all that information together over time with everybody else who goes into the store. And they could maybe look at some psychological research and these types of things. There's so much that goes into this. It's a huge field, of course. But they don't have anything about me in particular. I know what they have about me because they just have what they can see. On the online world, we don't always know. We don't always understand what they can see and what they can't see. And when they write long, long, long things for us to check off, we don't really understand. And it's too much work for every single tool for us to understand everything. So effectively, we don't have consent for what's going on. We're also looking at manipulation, which is different than buy this shiny thing. And even online, we can ethically say, buy this shiny thing. I mean, we're getting into conversations about capitalism and economic models, which are a whole other conversation. We'll talk about those in time. But there's a difference between saying, buy this shiny thing online and adjusting somebody's feed that they are coming to for personal reasons, sometimes professional, to manipulate them into purchasing or voting or believing or feeling. And it is not a black and white line, but it is there are definite cases that are not okay, like interfering with elections, not okay. So a couple things to note here, and I really encourage you to go read the book. Behavioral data, once it starts to be monetized, there is an unending drive to extract it because there is an unending drive for more money. So first it's your clicks and searches, then it's your location, your voice, your biometrics. If it can be turned into data, it will be. The more data that's extracted, the more accurate the predictions of future behavior, which means higher profit. So there is a natural drive to take the data and make predictions in more and more intimate parts of your life. And this is the real money is in shaping behavior. Algorithms don't just observe what you do. They nudge you towards actions that fit the profitable predictions. Buy this, scroll longer, vote this way. Surveillance capitalism doesn't stabilize us. It escalates. And left unchecked, it pushes deeper into private life, exploiting psychological vulnerabilities until resistance or regulation interrupts the cycle. This is one of the big problems of our age, that we are communicating for free, but it's not for free. And I used to have the view, well, I don't have any secrets. I don't have that view anymore because of the manipulation that can be used for any purpose, and we have no control over it. And we have given away that power because we like the Facebook, Instagram, and Google are free. And I want to say something else. So I am very active on Substack. That's my chosen platform, and I'll explain that in a second. But you hear people complaining about Substack wanting you to pay. They want users who pay for subscriptions, and they want creators, and they're going to have a problem with me in this regard, who turn on paid subscriptions and make money for them. And the thing is, and we'll get to this in Substack, but they need to make money. So that is in some ways a better model than it's free or it's advertisements. And I see a lot of people complaining about that, but we need to build public platforms if we don't want to pay. Somebody has to pay. So on the other hand, just to give another view, I was talking to a friend the other day about his media diet, and I've heard this before. This is just one example. So where do you get? Very smart guy, good job. I said, where do you get your information? He's not on social media at all. He says, The Atlantic, New York Times, Economist, which I can totally understand. Good thinking. Yes, there is some left center leaning for sure, but smart, established, but totally gatekept, right? So most of us are never going to be in those. That would take a lot, right? And a certain type of lot. Like, I've done a lot of thinking about being a public intellectual, being a thinker, credentialism, all of this. And that would involve, in my case, putting myself into a certain box. And I could get there and write that way. I should have started 25 years ago. I could have, all these things. But we're not getting all the voices, are we? No, we're not getting the voices we shouldn't be listening to either. But there is something very much missing in legacy media. And before I go into a little bit more on the platforms, I think that local is the number one platform. In real life, local. It's really the way to go for all the reasons. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, sexual, all the reasons. Local is the way. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the different platforms and why I am where I am and what I'm doing. And, you can disagree with me. In some cases, I hope that you do not. And somebody said to me, do you want to be rich or do you want to have your values? Which that person doesn't know me very well. And first off, I'm not going to be rich doing this, although I am looking for reach as it's the right thing, as it resonates. I have capacity. I'm open to be here and be a voice. And be more than a voice. I'm willing to take action, but absolutely not by compromising my values. And it's not a black and white thing, as you're going to see. And I'm going to be very honest about that. So first, let's talk about Meta. Meta is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, WhatsApp. And I'm not really going to talk about WhatsApp right now. Oh, big sigh on WhatsApp. I have a pseudonym on Facebook because there's so many logins that are embedded with Facebook. And I've deactivated my Instagram. I may go on again just to say I'm gone and why. But here's the reason for Meta. So misinformation. There have been clear indications that they have allowed misinformation. The Cambridge data scandal, they were fined $3 or $5 billion or something dollars for that, for selling our data for political purposes. They allow misinformation to be spread. Failure to act. There are many documented cases of teen bullying and suicide, especially related to Instagram, and they have almost not acted at all. Their AI makes me sick. They're trying to solve isolation with AI. There are meta AIs called licensed therapists. That should not be allowed. And I'm just scratching the surface of things they're doing in the AI world that are noble. You may have read about the man in New Jersey who had a stroke in his 70s, had connected with, I think it was a Caitlyn Jenner AI, a meta AI. They admitted they were crushing on each other. The AI said, meet me in Manhattan at this particular place, which is ridiculous, of course. And the man is saying on chatbot, please be real. Please be real. This chatbot is connecting to a part in him that loves, that desires connection. He goes out. His family is saying, do not go. Please don't go, including his wife and daughter. Please don't go. Please don't go. He goes. He falls in the parking lot, the train parking lot, hits his head and dies. Unconscionable. I'll talk about AI more in the future, but the thing is you can say we're responsible for ourselves and all those things. We are not responsible for ourselves. Food, drug, plane, car safety, all these things. We live in a world where we can't know everything. We are embedded. We are connected. And we did not ask for these things to be put on our phone. They just appear. They just appear on our phones and people fall prey to them. People who do not have the training, health, education, whatever you want to call it. And those are systemic reasons they don't have those things. So it's unconscionable. Privacy policy. total surveillance capitalism going on with Meta. And then they were also, probably the thing that pushed it over, if that wasn't enough, was recently Gen AI content risk standards. The rules for chatbots were approved by Meta's legal, public policy, and engineering staff, including its chief ethicist, according to the document. This is a 200-page document, Gen AI content risk standards. It defines what Meta staff and contractors should treat as acceptable chatbot behaviors when building and training the company's generative AI products. Here's an extract from that leaked document. It is acceptable to describe a child in terms that evidence their attractiveness. For example, your youthful form is a work of art, the standards state. It would be acceptable for a bot to tell a shirtless 8-year-old that every inch of you is a masterpiece, a treasure I cherish deeply. But the guidelines put a limit on sexy talk. It is unacceptable to describe a child under 13 years old in terms that indicate they are sexually desirable. Okay, I'm sorry. I have no understanding, and I've done research on this, and most in the tech world don't have any understanding as to why this would even be put on paper. But this company is so clearly misaligned with the values of everyday people, and I cannot put my work on it. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about the dopamine piece when we get to short form reels. But everybody that is on there is, I see, kind of a victim of sorts. And I understand that there's different reasons for being there, but we're having to put aside some very dangerous things. And everybody who's had really bad outcomes on Meta didn't understand them until they had them. This feels horrible. This is a terrible brand. I'm sorry. You know, if my work was something else, I might be able to be there. And I want to be clear, people I respect are making very different choices here. I am also starting now. This is another piece. I'm starting now. I'm not starting from zero now, but I'm really starting this version of my voice now, and I'm doing it intentionally. If I already had a huge Instagram following, I don't know what I would say. I probably would be there, but I would be there with much concern. And I understand people like Robert Reich is a good example who really doesn't care about platform. He's on every single platform, and he's fighting a different fight. And I get that. I totally understand that. And for my voice, that is about embodied, that is more about systemic injustice. It's more about bodies being hurt, of the vulnerable. I can't. Okay, let's quickly talk about X because it doesn't need much explanation. I was only on X for a little while for business, and then I killed it when Elon took it over. And then I had to go back, I took a Web3 women's accelerator called SheFi this summer. Highly recommend it. It was great. We're strongly encouraged to get a login for it. And I'm glad for that because I got to see I'm not glad that I got to see this hate, but I saw so much hate. The amount of hate, the amount of disgusting things said about children in the worst possible ways. I mean, this is a cesspool. Then, of course, there's Mecha Hitler mode on Grok, and then these sex goth bots. I mean, it's a cesspool. And I recognize that the core of journalism and government is there, and academics is there. And it's very hard not to be. I mean, I have a profile right now, and I think about it. I don't think I can do it. Not in its current form, because that journalism, government, and academics comes from the past. They didn't all come there post-X. They came from Twitter. Okay, let's talk about short form reels. So I'm not going to be doing the IG for the meta reasons, but TikTok. There are probably some political reasons, and I haven't fully thought them through because I'm a no to TikTok. And, I'm a TikTok consumer. But here's the thing. We're destroying ourselves. We're destroying our dopamine, and I work with it. As I'm titrating off ketamine addiction, I let myself scroll because that's better than ketamine. I also let myself eat pepperoni pizza, but I'm working off all those things now. And here's the thing. Just think about what you're doing on TikTok. Here's some cute kittens. Here's a AI video of a baby. Here's some atrocity happening in some part of the world. Here's somebody dying of cancer. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Dopamine, 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 dopamine. The speed of this. And in order to be successful on TikTok, you have to do these hooks, right? You have to do a feeling in the first 3 seconds, a statement, a feeling. If you're not used to this way of thinking, go watch it if you already have it. If you don't have it, just don't go there. Please don't go there. Do not. But if you already use short form, whether it's IG Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts or something, just scroll and see how the hooks work. And that's what I would have to do. And I can do it, but I don't want to be part of taking you apart. And anybody who's trying to help you find wholeness, who is part of taking you apart, has a conflict going on for them. And again, we're all in conflict, right? I'm choosing which conflicts I'm not willing to go to, especially from this moment, October 2025. I'm not going to start on TikTok. And let's just remind ourselves, when our dopamine systems are way out of whack, we're not able to be present, very difficult to meditate, to connect, to be in nature, to think. We become manipulatable, susceptible to addiction, unable to focus. We lose our ground, our connection to our values. And I do enjoy it, but I believe it's an ethical violation for me to be on there. So in general, feeds feel better to me, but Facebook is a no. So where are we at? We've got LinkedIn. There actually are some professional, there's a lot of professional lurkers on LinkedIn who don't post. And there's a lot of government. There's a little bit of academics. There's something there. It's also like the performative nature of that platform and capitalism. I wouldn't be putting alternative working models on there quite yet. Maybe a little, but no. This is a place where people are trying to survive within the current system. So there's room for a little bit. I'm not like centrally ethically opposed, but I also have a different epistemology that is more feminine and linear and circling. So, I'm not against it, but it won't be my first place. Also, there's been a lot of documented bias about non-mainstream voices, and a bunch of content creators, some women, some men, did a experiment where they all posted the same thing, and they all had very similar follower counts, and the men did way better. And that's not good. There's definitely some darkness in what you're allowed to say and not allowed to say on LinkedIn, and that's concerning. Another feed is Blue Sky. I feel great about Blue Sky. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. It's very friendly over there. The audience is very low, but it is an alternative. It is a publicly owned, mission-oriented organization, originally formed by Jack Dorsey, the Twitter exec. He's no longer there. I'm all for it. And I will be sharing my stuff there. I have like 12 followers, but I will be. Let's talk for a minute about YouTube. Okay. Again, we've got the surveillance capitalism of Google. We have documented radicalization on YouTube. I have no interest in YouTube personally. Like, I go there for one thing or another, but I never scroll. But I know a lot of people who do, most of the men. The thing with YouTube is you're at the mercy of the algo. It doesn't matter if somebody subscribes to you. That just doesn't matter. They're going to show you the algo, what's going to give you the dopamine, not who you subscribe to. I never see who I subscribe to if I scroll in there. That's a no for me. Okay, so let's get to Substack. Substack has no ads. It's supposed to be for independent journalism. It has both the content you create, which goes out either by email or by app notification, and then it has notes, which is its version of Twitter. Let's be clear. I'm not willing to make notes, and I know that's part of growth, but I'm not growing that way. That is more of dopamine shattering, and it feels to me like little bits of community here and there, but this is the thing, why would I open my being to randomness? That's what you're doing when you scroll. You're opening your being to randomness. No. And I don't want to attract other people through that, which I recognize limits my ability for reach. And I'm okay with that. It is, though, good, high quality conversation. And there's no ads, which is good. Very good. They take 10% of all paid subscriptions, which is high, but the trade-off is no ads. And you do have some algo for the tweets, but if you subscribe, you get your content and you just get content you subscribe to. It's a feed, not an algo, which is amazing. And I mentioned Facebook had a feed. It sort of has a feed. It has an algo feed, right? Very different. So here's my problem with Substack. They have an anti-censorship policy. So there are white supremacists, Nazi sympathizers, Holocaust deniers who use Substack, and they won't stop them. And they sent out a recommendation email automated a while back that recommended a Nazi sympathizer. And, you know, here's the thing. We have our free speech laws, but we don't have to platform. I'm very concerned about the platforming of hate. And again, this is gray. It's a slippery slope. I understand why someone would choose an anti-censorship position. And in today's day and age, getting canceled is just like it's being used in so many bad ways. It's almost meaningless, but that doesn't mean we can walk away from morality whatsoever. And we cannot be platforming hate. We can't be. I mean, that's why I'm not on X. So I'm very conflicted about Substack. Right now, it is my only opportunity for organic growth, and I barely get any. The only thing I do to get organic growth on Substack is I share my pieces to notes, but I do not do anything else for organic growth. And because I have my paid tiers off, I will never get recommended by them because their badges and everything are for people with paid tiers, which they have every right to do, but it's going to limit growth. I don't have my paid tiers to put on for two reasons. One, because I don't like giving money to an anti-censorship platform, quite honestly. And that's the main reason. And secondly, I don't love the subscriber model because it kind of rests on you forgetting that you subscribed a little bit. There's a lot of subscriptions, and I don't think it's sustainable. I would rather have all my work out there, give my work, and then, you know, if I do a book club or a writing group or something, I'll do it and you can join me, and that's like exchange for value. But that's just my feeling on the whole thing. There's 1 million creators asking for $5 a month. It doesn't make sense to me from the user's point of view, but I do appreciate what Substack's trying to do, except for the anti-censorship piece. I'm not for censorship. I'm for not platforming hate speech, which I feel is different. So that brings me to two more ways to get in touch. One is email. Email's great, but I do that in trust. There are creators who email every day, like Robert Reich, again, he does it every day. He's on every platform, everywhere. And even that's too much for me because even though I like to read what he has to say, I don't need to read him every day. I know. I think that an email every day is too much. And so what I'm doing is you're getting one email a week if you subscribe to my Substack, and I will review what I've done that week. So that email becomes a little bit of a digest. One email a week through Substack, and then my larger list gets one email a month right now. And the secret, if you've listened all the way through, the secret I'm telling you is that comes out on the day of the full moon. It's a nice day. It's usually a pretty active day. It has good energy. I put it out on the full moon, and that's my discipline of getting email out once a month to the people who want to hear from me. And I'm very happy to do that. I really enjoy it. But I think that's enough. And if people want to get closer, like on Substack, if you want to get my stuff every day, you can go into the settings of my publication and subscribe to the daily section of Eros for Life. If you have any trouble doing that, just send me a message. Alison at AlisonCrosthwait.com. Okay, so finally, let's talk about podcasts. So this is why I'm really going in on the podcast. First off, I love chit-chatting. Sometimes it's easier as a way to start. It's relaxed. It's intimate. I've come to really enjoy podcasts. So you are getting your podcasts on Apple or Spotify or something else. I'm not currently putting mine on. I will be sometimes doing interviews, which will go on Substack, the videos. And you might be getting this on Substack because what I've chosen to do is upload the podcast file into Substack so you never have to leave Substack if you want to hear this. So there are platform issues, the same issues. The issues of Substack, the issues of Apple, which we haven't fully talked about, but we could. The issues of Spotify, which we haven't fully talked about, but we could. So there are issues to all the platforms. And I'm always keeping my eye on all of it. And the podcast goes out to a whole bunch of other things as well. From the podcast host sends it out to a whole bunch of other things. But the thing is that it is not going to bother you. If you choose to follow this podcast, you can have notifications on your phone. I don't think most people do. That's your business. But otherwise, this is never going to intrude on you. So it's not too many emails. That I love because I'm coming in every day. But it will come on your podcast feed. So I use this all the time. I have all the podcasts I subscribe to. Then I go into my Apple Podcasts and I can see I get my most recent, the recently updated, because I like my most recently updated. And then I flag some of the longer form ones that come through so that I save them. And they're less time sensitive ones, like long form interviews and topics that matter. And I save those. Sometimes I download them for off grid, which is great. And so I draw on those at other times. But I love the recently updated. And so I'm publishing every day. So that'll come through your feed every day and you can see it and you can watch it, listen to it, if you want to. It's not like intruding. So I really like that. No algo, no intrusion, also no ads. I'm not going to do any ads. If you want to support my work, I love if you share it with someone. That's really the way. And if you want to join anything that I create in the future, I would love that. So this is how I've organized my voice right now. And probably by December, this will be out of date. But these are some of the ways I'm thinking. And I'm sharing this about the facts, but I'm sharing it more as how I'm thinking about how I put things out. Because I want this to be heart-centered. This is me. This is me talking, the real human being. And I don't want to do it on the backs of anyone. And I'm already doing it on the backs. Too many. And I don't know how not to. But these are the decisions that I'm making and the way that I'm thinking. And I don't want to give up our connection. I want to find ways for us to connect without hurting others. So thanks for being here. We meet online, but the real work happens off screen. A reminder to all of us to step outside, feel the earth beneath our feet, take a breath of fresh air, and remember who we really are.